Tuesday, November 3rd, 2021 morning session of the Portland City Council. Good morning. Keelan, please call the roll.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners. Maps.
Here.
Rubio.
Here.
Ryan.
Here.
Hardesty.
Here.
Wheeler.
Here. Under Portland City Code and state law, the City Council is holding this meeting electronically. All members of the council are attending remotely by video and teleconference, and the city has made numerous avenues available for the public to listen to the audio broadcast of this meeting. The meeting is available to the public on the city's YouTube channel, eGov PDX, www.portlandoregon.gov/video, and channel 30. The public may provide written testimony to the council by emailing our amazing council clerk at cctestimony@portlandoregon.gov. The council is taking these steps as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the need to limit in-person contact and to promote physical distancing. The pandemic is an emergency that threatens the public health, safety, and welfare, which requires us to meet remotely by electronic communications. Thank you all for your patience, your flexibility, and your understanding as we manage through these challenging circumstances to conduct the city's business. Now we'll hear from legal counsel on the rules of order and decorum. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. To participate in council meetings, you may sign up in advance with the council clerk's office for communications to briefly speak about any subject. You may also sign up for public testimony on resolutions or the first readings of ordinances. The published council agenda at portlandoregon.gov/auditor contains information about how and when you may sign up for testimony while the City Council is holding electronic meetings. Your testimony should address the matter being considered at the time. When testifying, please state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. Please disclose if you're a lobbyist. If you're representing an organization, please identify it. The presiding officer determines the length of testimony. Individuals generally have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. When your time is up, the presiding officer will ask you to conclude. Disruptive conduct, such as shouting, refusing to conclude your testimony when your time is up, or interrupting others' testimony or council deliberations will not be allowed. If there are disruptions, a warning will be given that further disruption may result in the person being placed on hold or ejected from the remainder of the electronic meeting. Please be aware that all council meetings are recorded. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. And colleagues, just as an administrative note, I have a hard out this morning at 11 a.m. So if we're not concluded by 11 a.m., I'm going to turn this over to Council President Brian to complete the meeting. First up is communications. First individual, please, Keelan, is item number 777.
Request of Joanne Reese to...
I'm sorry for interrupting. I'm Kendall, the interpreter. Does everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you, Kendall.
Okay, great. So you guys could tell me when you want me to start interpreting.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'll read 777 now. Request of Joanne Reese to address council regarding technical assistance for financial irregularities and elections tampering.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, great, thanks. My name is Joanne Reese. In May, 2 Lentz Neighborhood Association members testified about problems with our neighborhood association: misappropriation of city resources, such as taxpayer-funded insurance and neighborhood allotments, failure to address grievances and acknowledge public records requests, no public comment at meetings, allegations of disparate treatment and disenfranchisement, possibly rooted in discrimination and retaliation against whistleblowers. Promised meetings with Civic Life never materialized. We were redirected to the office that had sent us on the initial wild goose chase. Department of Justice considers Civic Life primary regulator and primary funder of NAs. Civic Life denies this, despite reviewing appeals to NA grievance deliberations and providing liaison and financial recognition to NAs. LNA should have been derecognized years ago for willful violations of bylaws, ONI standards, and ORS 65. In 2019, 1/5 of the LNA bank account at a time headed to fund single projects or assumed business names of individual board members, with insurance coverage appearing to be shopped out to non-LNA projects. Civic Life claimed that the July 2019 $10,000 LNA bank account, which had been spent down to $1,500 by November 2020, was not city funded. Then where did that money come from? East Portland Community Office nonprofit partner East Portland Neighbors is non-responsive. LNA finance report released in May 2021 corroborated LNA members' suspicions about board self-service. LNA board then attempted to push through an agenda item to completely dissolve LNA during a pandemic summer 1 month before elections. When this was thwarted, they disabled the candidate elections forms. Then the entire board resigned, retaining access to all LNA communications, financial, and operational platforms. September 28th elections could not occur. LNA property remains with the resigned board. A subsequent conversation with the DOJ confirmed that LNA board was in dereliction of duty. We should not have had to second guess Civic Life and head to DOJ when it appeared that EPCO was serving as the LNA board's gatekeeper. Civic Life is a well-funded neighborhood programming sector. If there is no interest or will to provide technical assistance to help NAs whistleblowing on boards perceived to be rogue, or if the interest and will are selective due to cronyism or discrimination, then defund that sector. There are other more pressing problems afflicting Portland, including a housing emergency and a surge in violent crime, than supporting a tokenized boondoggle. Thank you.
Thank you. Next individual, please. Individual 778.
Request of Shar Penny to address council regarding technical assistance for financial irregularities and elections tampering.
Good morning, Shar. Are you unmuted?
I am now unmuted.
Great, loud and clear. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler and City Commissioners. My name is Shar Penny. I am the Secretary Treasurer of the Lentz Neighborhood Livability Association. I am here today to talk about the former chair of the Lentz Neighborhood Association, who was the primary person responsible for the dissolution of our city recognized NA. This is the same person that Commissioner Hardesty is endorsing by appearing in photographs with her child at neighborhood gatherings that are promoting Portland Street Response. This is the same person who willfully used our neighborhood association's funding to start her own nonprofit and was a sitting chair when $8,000 from that same account disappeared. This is the same person that has been having personal meetings with Commissioner Hardesty to remain as a co-chair of EPAP without being present at EPAP meetings so she can continue making decisions on EPAP's behalf. This is the same person that made an open plea when Prosper Portland would not extend her free rental space for her Lentz collective, and then turned around and was given a position on their Prosper Portland Budget Advisory Committee, who then awarded her $43,560 grant money. Through her guiles and lies, she has managed to work her way up through the ranks with the help of people like J.R. Lilly with EPAP and Commissioner Hardesty, while promoting herself and her nonprofit East Portland Collective. It appears to the community that she has awarded grant after grant, but the community sees very little return. It must be nice to be in such a position that you can get special recognition from a city commissioner while others can't even get a return phone call. While you see her as a community leader, the community sees her as a leech, taking away from the community's voice instead of amplifying it. Thank you for your time this morning.
Next individual, please, Keelan, is 779, please.
Request of David W. Potts to address council regarding technical assistance for financial irregularities and elections tampering.
Good morning, David. David, can you make sure you're unmuted, please?
Unmute. Okay.
There you are.
Now?
Yeah, okay. Now I can hear you. Good.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler and City Commissioners. My name is David Potts, and I am the president of the Lentz Neighborhood Livability Association. I'm here to give here to give my perspective on the functioning of the city recognized and funded Lentz Neighborhood Association. The Office of Community and Civic Life is supposed to promote a culture of civic engagement by connecting and supporting all Portlanders with government. I found civic life to be totally disorganized and unresponsive to regular neighborhood citizens. Emails are seldom answered, no one answers the phone, and after leaving numerous messages with staff, we might eventually get a response. The staff appears to be untrained in basic office etiquette. There are many excuses, but little has changed over the past 5 years but the staff. They are in a constant state of reorganization. To the community, they seem to be rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, except that they are given ever larger budgets. ACL claims to serve as a connection point, facilitating understanding and collaboration between the community and their local government. They appear to be aloof to connecting us citizens to anyone who will address our concerns. Things have gone awry with the operation of our neighborhood association, and it no longer represents the neighborhood. We have had a self-elected board for the Lentz neighborhood for the past 2 elections, and no real accounting of where the NA funds have gone for more than 5 years. The entire board resigned just prior to the election that should have been held in September. It now appears that a member of the former board is going to be allowed to appoint her own interim board. Where is the community involvement in this process? Once again, we await for actual engagement with the city through their neighborhood association. Thank you for hearing me.
Next individual, please, Keelan. It looks like 780.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm going to read this title and then we're...
I'm sorry. Commissioner Hardesty has her hand raised. I apologize, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe that was the last person speaking from the Lentz Neighborhood Livability Committee. Is that correct? Because I just wanted to respond to some of the allegations that were made, especially as it relates to my office. There is no secret deal making taking place in my office between any community-based organizations. Each neighborhood association is independently operated. The city does not manage independent neighborhood associations. I am proud of the work that we've been able to do over this year to try to rewrite the ship at the Office of Neighborhood Civic and Community Engagement. And we are on path to putting real standards in place. It sounds like there's been some issues for 5 to 7 years based on the testimony today. I think you should put that your information in writing and send it to Michael and copy my office, and we would be happy to follow up with you. But it is inappropriate in a public forum to allege misconduct and unethical activities of elected leaders. I don't support unethical behavior. I never have and never will. And so I just wanted to not let that go unchallenged this morning. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Keelan, next individual, 780, please.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Commissioners, we're joined today by a Spanish language interpreter. So I'm going to read the title for 780 and then we're going to make sure everybody is connected. Request of Magali Martinez Gregorio to address council regarding safety concerns about homeless campsite near her apartment. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Senor Magali to unmute.
Just so you know, the interpreter's online.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kendall. Magali, are you able to unmute? Kendall, will you ask Magali to unmute?
Okay, señor Magali, ¿usted puede quitar el mudo en su teléfono o de la reunión de Zoom?
¿Sí me escucha?
Sí. Okay, I hear her.
Kendall, will you ask Magali to go ahead and present her communication to council?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Hola, señora Martínez. Ahora usted puede dar su exposición al consejo. Le pido el favor de hablar en frases cortas para efectos de calidad.
Ok. Primero que todo, buenos días. Me llamo Magali Martínez.
Okay. Well, first of all, good morning, and my name is Magali Martínez.
Vivo en la 9326 Sureste Chile Street, Portland 97266.
Okay, I live at 9326 Southeast Schiller Street in Portland, 97266.
Y el presente por la que me encuentro hoy aquí es para pedirle a usted con el mayor respeto que se merece.
Okay, and the reason why I'm here today is to ask you with all due respect
que retire el personal que vive alrededor del condominio donde vivo.
for you guys to get rid of the individuals who live around the condominium where I live.
Por el motivo que esas personas se inyectan droga frente a los niños.
Because they shoot up drugs in front of children.
Entran al condominio a robar. En algunas ocasiones entran desnudos con arma y navaja en la mano.
And they also enter the condos to steal, and sometimes they're naked with guns and knives in their hands.
Ya estoy cansado de llamar a la policía y la única respuesta que recibo de parte de ellos es que no pueden hacer nada por el coronavirus.
And I'm tired of calling the police, and the only response I get from them is that they cannot do anything about it due to coronavirus.
Yo no entiendo si ya tenemos más de la mitad de la población con la vacuna, ¿por qué seguimos arrastrando los mismos problemas?
I don't understand if more than half of the population is already vaccinated, then why do we continue having the same problem?
Ya esto es inaudito, siento que nadie me escucha.
This is unheard of, and I feel that no one is listening to us.
Necesito de su ayuda, por favor.
We need your help, please.
Amo el estado de Oregon y no quisiera que se echara a perder más de lo que está.
I love the state of Oregon, and I don't want the city to get even more messed up than what it already is.
Y si usted cree que no puede hacer nada, entonces dígame dónde tengo que ir para que me escuche y tomen medidas, por favor.
If you can't do anything about it, so please tell me where I can go for someone to listen to me and for them to do something about it.
Muchas gracias. Gracias, que tenga un buen día y Dios me lo bendiga.
Thank you very much. Have a good day, and God bless you.
Thank you. Could I briefly respond, please?
Okay. ¿Puedo dar una respuesta breve, por favor?
Thank you for your testimony this morning. We appreciate having you here.
Muchas gracias por su testimonio esta mañana y agradecemos que usted está aquí.
I apologize for your not feeling that you have been heard by the city of Portland.
Le pido disculpas porque usted se siente como no si estuviera escuchando aquí en la ciudad de Portland.
This city council is prioritizing addressing the homelessness situation.
Ese consejo de la ciudad tiene como prioridad en abordar la situación de indigentes.
Just this week, the city and the county agreed to make tens of millions of dollars of additional investments in resolving the homeless crisis.
Justamente esta semana acordaron hacer inversiones de décimas de millones de dólares para abordar la situación de indigencia.
Part of the work that we are doing is to get as many people off the streets as quickly and humanely as possible.
Parte del trabajo que queremos hacer es sacar los indigentes de las calles lo más pronto posible y de manera humana.
That includes shelter, new villages, and other options.
Eso incluye albergues, nuevas villas y otras opciones.
I want to thank you for your continued patience and understanding that we are doing everything we can to resolve the homeless crisis.
Me gustaría darle gracias por su paciencia continua de entender que estamos tratando de hacer todo lo que podamos para abordar la crisis de indigencia.
In closing, this council is 100% in agreement that this is an urgent issue.
En conclusión, este consejo está totalmente de acuerdo que esto es un problema.
Thank you for being here today.
Muchas gracias por estar aquí en el día de hoy.
Commissioner Hardesty.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to our speaker for being here today. What we're seeing on the street is a combination of a multitude of failures. And what we know is we have thousands of people who have nowhere to go, who are currently living on our streets. Is our interpreter still here?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I didn't know that you want me to continue interpreting.
Yeah, so if you could interpret for the commissioners who are responding. So Commissioner Hardesty is going to speak, then Commissioner Ryan, if you could interpret, please. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. I'm so sorry about that. Can you please repeat?
Yes, okay, Kendall, no problem. That's why I was pausing, but I didn't know what happened. So first, I just want to say thank you for being here today and for your testimony.
Muchas gracias por su presencia en el día de hoy y gracias por su testimonio.
Okay, gracias por intérprete.
Thank you.
The next thing I want to say is that there are thousands of people on our streets desperately trying to survive on our streets because of a lack of so many supports.
Okay, la siguiente cosa que yo quiero decir es que hay miles de personas en nuestras calles debido a una escasez de apoyos.
COVID exposed the inequities that are built into our systems.
El COVID ha expuesto los patrimonios. Espera un segundo. Man, can you please repeat that?
COVID exposed the inequities that are built into all our safety net systems.
Okay, el COVID ha expuesto todas las iniquidades que están dentro de todas nuestras redes de seguridad.
Whether that is housing, where
que sea vivienda.
There's not a zip code in the city of Portland that the Black community is not cost burdened in.
Donde no hay código postal donde la comunidad afrodescendiente no está que tiene alguna carga.
There is no zip code that a white young family could afford to own a home in the city of Portland.
No hay un código postal donde una familia blanca pueda pagar una vivienda en la ciudad de Portland.
COVID raised the level of domestic violence by over 400%.
COVID ha aumentado los casos de violencia doméstica por más de 400%.
I'm saying all this not to say that these are excuses for inaction.
Yo Yo estoy diciendo que esto no es exclusivo para hacer una acción,
but that we need a multitude of solutions to these very complex problems.
pero es que necesitamos una multitud de soluciones para estos problemas complejos.
I, like you, walk by camps every day in my neighborhood.
Yo, igual a usted, yo paso cuando voy caminando por campos todos los días en mi vecindario.
I have conversations with people trying to survive on our streets.
Yo tengo conversaciones con personas que están intentando de sobrevivir en nuestras calles.
And most of the people I meet would rather not be living on our streets, surrounded
Y
by
la mayoría de las personas que yo conozco prefieren no estar viviendo en nuestras calles alrededor de un montón de basura.
I am, however, optimistic that together
Sin embargo, yo soy optimista que juntos,
with government support,
con apoyo del Estado,
with community mutual aid support,
con apoyos mutuos comunitarios,
and not demonizing people, but for grace could be us, is going to be how we're going to rebuild a more equitable Portland.
pero no endoganizando a las personas, pero con gracia. Espera un segundo. We said with grace we could what?
Rebuild a more equitable, fair Portland.
Pero con la gracia podemos reconstruir un Portland más justo y asequible.
Thank you again for being here.
Muchísimas gracias otra vez por su presencia.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Sorry.
Sure. Hola, and thank you so much for your excellent testimony.
Hola, y muchísimas gracias por su testimonio excelente.
You did a wonderful job. I especially appreciated the pictures. It was very helpful.
Usted hizo un excelente trabajo y en especial agradezco las fotos.
If I wrote down your address right when I was listening,
Si había escrito bien o anotado bien su dirección mientras que escuchaba,
there will be one Safe Rest Village built approximately 4 miles from that location, and that will help relocate some of the houseless towards that village.
okay, podemos reconstruir una villa de seguridad 4 millas a distancia de ese sitio y podemos reubicar a esas personas en estado de indigencia, de estar sin hogar.
Villages will be safe for those inside and also for those who live outside the village.
Y eso sería seguro para las personas que viven dentro de la villa y también las personas que viven fuera de la villa.
Keep testifying and testify for increased behavioral health services. For example, treatment centers.
I'm sorry, interpreter, can you please repeat that?
Sure, absolutely. I'll break it up a little bit. Sorry about that. And keep testifying for services for treatment centers.
Y por favor, siga testificando para que hayan centros de rehabilitación.
And also consider testifying at the county.
Y también considere testificando que el condado.
We work with the county. They provide all the services for the houseless.
Y para el condado, porque nosotros trabajamos con el condado para prestar servicios a las personas en situación de no tener hogar.
And their meetings are on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings.
Y sus reuniones son en las horas de la mañana, los martes y jueves.
Your voice is powerful. Thank you again for your testimony.
Su voz es poderosa y nuevamente muchísimas gracias por su testimonio.
Gracias.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Our last testifier for communications this morning, please.
Commissioner Rubio's hands up. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Rubio. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Señora, nomás quiero decir gracias por sus palabras. Su voz es muy importante y mis colegas y yo estamos enfocados en esta situación. Y muchas gracias por estar aquí esta mañana.
Y gracias a ustedes por querer ayudarnos, porque la verdad ya esto ya es demasiado. Llevamos más de un año con la pandemia y no vemos respuesta ninguna. La verdad que esperemos que tomen medida al caso, porque la verdad lo necesitamos. Aquí hay familia, aquí hay niños y queremos la tranquilidad, queremos la paz de nuevo en este condominio.
This is an interpreter. Did you guys want me to interpret that?
I would. I'd like to. My Spanish is a little rusty, so yes, please.
Okay. All right. I'll just give you guys a summary. The lady who just spoke to the Miss Martinez was practically saying, "Hey, thank you for speaking. Your voice counts." And the lady say, "Oh, thank you very much. You know, we need action to take because a lot of children and families are being affected by this, and no one is listening to us."
That lady was Commissioner Rubio. Thank you.
Sorry
Thank
about
you
that.
so much. Appreciate that.
I apologize. I should have said it in English as well. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Great. Commissioner Rubio, does that complete your conversation there? Great. Kendall, thank you very much for your great work. I know interpretation is very hard, and we really appreciate your stepping in here today. So thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. I greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet. Have a great day. Next individual, item 781.
Request of Malcolm Johnson to address council regarding initiatives to fight global and local poverty.
Good morning.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
All right, well, hello everybody. My name is Malcolm Johnson. I'm a political affairs intern for the Borgen Project. We're a nonprofit organization dedicated to fighting global poverty. Throughout the year, we advocate for a number of different bills and issues and things like that. And this week, I'm working on mobilizing people to support Afghan allies and refugees in the wake of the Taliban taking control of that country. I know the council can't really specifically do much about that, but I wanted to reach out for the members of the Portland City Council to write some form of written communication to Senators Merkley, Wyden, and Representative Blumenauer in support of Afghan allies and refugees. Thank you for letting me speak and for hearing my thoughts.
Thank you. And you cut out a little bit there, but I think we got the gist of it, and your support for refugees from Afghanistan. Thank you for your comments, and we do work closely with our federal delegation. Thank you. Keelan, with regard to the consent agenda, have any items been pulled off the consent agenda?
We've received no requests.
Please call the roll on the consent agenda.
Maps.
Aye.
Rubio.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Hardesty.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The consent agenda is adopted. We'll go to the first time certain item, please. Item number 782.
Accept the quarterly Technology Oversight Committee report from the Chief Administrative Officer.
Colleagues, I'm pleased to introduce this report by the Technology Oversight Committee. which, as you know, is comprised of 5 members of the public, each selected by a commissioner. The committee is tasked with providing oversight of the city's technology-based projects. Ethan Sermo from the Office of Management and Finance, Chief Technology Officer and Director of the Bureau of Technology Services, Jeff Baer, and the citizen member of the TOC who represents my office, Wilfred Pinfold, are here to present the report today. So welcome, Ethan, Jeff, and Wilfred.
Thank you very much, Mayor Wheeler. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ethan Sermo. I work on the communications team for the Office of Management and Finance. This is the quarterly report for the Technology Oversight Committee for Q3 of 2021. As Mayor Wheeler said, you will be hearing today from Jeff Baer, the Chief Technology Officer and Director of BTS. And then after you hear from Jeff, you'll be hearing from Wilfred Pinfold, and he represents Mayor Wheeler. Currently, we are overseeing just one project, the Integrated Tax System project, that is currently within budget, schedule, and scope. In addition, we get regular updates from the Portland, Oregon website refresh project, as well as the SAP Suite on HANA project. That is, we typically get updates from them, even though they're not actually being overseen by the TOC. Starting next quarter, we are going to be overseeing the Police Bureau's Office 365 migration project. And with that overview done, I will hand it over to Jeff, who will be talking to you about our quarterly report.
All right, thank you, Ethan, and good morning, Mayor Wheeler and members of City Council. Wilf and I are here to present the Technology Oversight Committee quarterly report to Council, covering the third quarter of 2021, and provide updates that may not necessarily be reflected in the reporting period, and also some updates on some other projects. And as always, we're very pleased to be here and happy to answer any questions you may have related to these different projects. First off, just want to do a quick note about the Integrated Tax System, or better known as ITS. You'll notice that all indicators are green and stable as it moves into its third release, slated to go live this coming January. Still a lot of work to be done over the next few months to prepare for go live, such as end-to-end testing and staff training.
Excuse me, are we supposed to be seeing something on our screen?
I believe, Ethan, are you showing?
Am I the only one that can't see it?
Yes.
I'm not.
Okay, great.
So I am sharing my screen, and we have the presentation up, and it is visible on my screen.
Yeah, good call then on Commissioner Ryan's part. We're not seeing it.
Yeah, we don't see what you're talking about.
Let me try to share again.
Cool.
If you're sharing the info that was in our packet.
There it is. Now it's up. Yeah, it looks good now.
Okay. Thanks, Ethan. And thank you, Commissioner Ryan, for pointing that out. And just a quick note related to the ITS project. Revenue has done an excellent job managing a very large, complex project. And as Ethan noted, although it's not necessarily under the purview of the TOC, they do receive periodic updates on the Portland, Oregon website replacement project, also known as POWER, which is also provided in the report. And these past several months, the project team has really been focused on the employee intranet site, translation, and the content migration. And I think you'll probably have been reached out by our project team to each of your offices to help with that content migration. And then, as noted under part 3 of the report, it's noted that the Police Bureau's Office 365 migration planning is underway and will become part of the monthly report starting in December once we onboard the external quality assurance consultant. And then also just wanted to note too that this week I received the TOC intake assessment for the Police Bureau's body-worn camera project, which will also fall underneath the TOC oversight. And also TOC members will have an opportunity to review the RFP before it's published. And then on a final note, before I turn it over to—
Before you move off that, Commissioner Hersey, do you want to ask a question on that item?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I did. And let me just say thank you, Jeff, as always. You are always a wealth of information. Your team, they do incredible work And we always love to see all the green spots all over the reports when you come to council. You just talked about upcoming work with the police bureau, and you mentioned body-worn cameras. But I've not heard you mention the Regis data retrieval system that we prioritized in the current budget process for us to get a handle on, because we know Portland Police Bureau is not good at buying computer systems. And so I just want to know, your folks are all volunteers, and I just want to make sure that we're prioritizing the right things and we're not just dumping stuff on you because there's a need for that information at this moment. So how are you going to prioritize all the asks that the police bureau could possibly have, and do the ones that we as the council think are most important first?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that question. And what we're hearing from the Police Bureau, and maybe a way to confirm this with the council, is that we initially have started the work and planning effort for the Office 365 migration, which can help with the DOJ settlement. That'll be a fairly quick turnaround, quick being several months. Then it's going to be immediately followed by releasing an RFP for the body-worn camera project. That will take a fair amount of time once we identify the solution for that. And on the heels of that is the region replacement. So those three things are in the queue.
To me, because we're running out of time with the regions. And I'm not quite sure what our plan is yet for the body-worn camera. And as you know, since we don't have the policy in place yet, I just want to make sure that that the police bureau doesn't come back and want us to continue to extend this really ridiculous contract, and that we're on track to actually replace that region system as soon as possible. If we're talking cost benefit analysis, we need to get that system replaced. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just move on to a final note here, and that's at our last TOC meeting, I presented an overview of other internal BTS-led projects, so they are aware of other technology initiatives that may not rise up to the level of TOC oversight, but they're very important. Some of the things such as our cybersecurity improvements that we're making related to our firewall replacement, our 100 gig ring upgrade throughout the city, 311 system, and also building access control, service design, and several others. So although these are important projects, they're just much smaller and don't necessarily fall underneath the TOC oversight. So with that, I'll pause and turn it over to Will for comments on any of these different projects.
I have a lot to add to the report. I think very happy.
Will, for some reason, we're unable to hear you. Can you play with the sound a bit and see if you can fix that? Can't hear it all.
How about now?
Ah, there you go. Now we hear you.
Okay, good.
Good, thank you.
I apologize. So tech guys and technology, amazing. What I said was I don't have a lot to add to the report. I think we all, Commissioner Hardesty, we all like to see a lot of green on those charts. It makes us all feel good. And I think it leaves a little space to talk about the good things. I'd like to give a call out a bit to the web refresh program. I think it was a bold move to take the approach that the city took, and I think it's paid off extremely well. I think without going into a lot of technical detail, all I'd like to say is I think it sets a pathway that would allow the city to have a very good mechanism for communicating with citizens, and I think there's a lot more capability there than we're currently using. I'd like to point out that it's a tool that the Commission and the city can use. I think is more robust than we've had previously. So I think that's a good point and worth mentioning, just because we have the time and the thought, and there are communications that would be beneficial to get out. I'd also like to thank Commissioner Ryan and Commissioner Mapps for the work they've been doing on the permitting system and the refresh there. I've had the privilege of being on some of those meetings, and I think that's good work and much needed to address the myriad of problems associated with the cost of housing and the difficulty of building in the city. And I think that's a really good effort. And I mentioned those two together because I think there's some relationship. I think we could use some of the technology that has been deployed in the website refresh to help with communications and to help improve the quality of submission that I think is necessary to improve that overall process. So I'm very happy with the way things are going. I think I speak for the whole of the TOC. And thank you as a commission for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Wilf. And that concludes our report. If we have any questions, we can glad to answer those.
Awesome. Thank you, colleagues. Are there further questions, Commissioner Mapps?
First, I want to thank everybody for this very concise report. Glad to hear that things are going well. I do have a question about some upcoming work. Do we know when the Technology Executive Steering Committee will be reconvened?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Mapps. I've continued to have conversations with Chief Administrative Officer Tom Reinhardt. We've got some ideas we're pulling together and some different, just basically reconstituting that group very soon.
Okay, great. Well, and when you do reconvene, would it be possible for council office staff to attend those sessions?
I think they have in the past, so I don't see why that wouldn't be possible.
Okay, great. Well, I just want to let you know our office is awfully interested in both seeing that committee come back together, and we'd like to participate in those meetings when they get put on the calendar.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, colleagues. If there's no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Commissioner Ryan moves to accept the report.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Hardesty. Any further discussion? Keelan, please call the roll.
Mapps.
I'd just like to thank our guests for the important work they do for the city and this excellent report that we heard today. It sounds like things are going well, which is one of the reasons why I'm glad to vote aye.
Rubio.
I just also want to say thank you, Jeff and team, for this great work and this great report. I vote aye.
Ryan.
Sorry, it took me a while to find that. Hey, first of all, thank you, Jeff, for being here, and thank you, Will, for testifying as well to inform the council about the progress of your oversight committee. Will, I especially appreciated you calling out connecting the dots between the web upgrades and how that connects the dots with what we're doing with needing to vastly improve our permitting processes that we do for our customers and partners throughout the city. I'm definitely ready to accept this report. Look forward to the next update. I vote aye.
Hardesty.
Again, thank you so much, Jeff and your team. We'll really appreciate you being here and adding value to this deliberation today. What I love about the Technology Oversight Committee is these are really experts in their field that agree to volunteer their expertise on behalf of the city of Portland. And even though I'm always giddy to see the green, when you show up with charts with red and yellow on it, I also know that means that we're paying special attention and we're monitoring to make sure that what we're investing in is going to work for us both short term and long term. So trust me, I don't mind the red and yellow. But of course, we all love the green because the green means everything's right on track and we're doing what we should be doing. I cannot appreciate you enough. But I do want to make sure that we're prioritizing some of these systems issues, especially around placing with the Region Center system, and of course, getting the best type of contract possible around body-worn cameras. All that is really going to be important for us moving forward. So my appreciation, and I'm very happy to vote aye.
Wheeler.
Well, thank you, Ethan, Jeff, and Will for joining us today and sharing these updates from the Technology Oversight Committee. And as always, a huge thank you to the entire committee, Wilfred, Jimmy, Leland, Deanna, and Victoria for the work you've done over the last quarter. This is very technical work. It requires a lot of time and follow-up, and we appreciate it. And I look forward to receiving more updates in the future. I vote aye, and the report is accepted. Thanks for great work. Next up is going to be, let's see, yeah, we can do that. We'll do time certain 783, please.
Appoint new members and extend the term of existing members to the Arts Education Access Fund Oversight Committee.
Commissioner Rubio.
Thank you, Mayor. In 2012, Measure 26146 was passed by Portland voters to create the Arts Education Access Fund, which provides arts teachers for all K-5 students in the city and financial support to local arts organizations. The Arts Education Access Fund Oversight Committee is charged with reviewing the Access Fund expenditures, progress, and outcomes, and reporting on findings to the city annually. The committee requires a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 20 members at a time, serving up to 2 years of 2 and 3 terms. Two terms of 2 and 3 years. And today I'm excited to present several nominees for appointment to this oversight committee. And over the last year plus of the pandemic, the committee experienced a combination of member transitions and conclusions of member terms of service. And this has resulted in an opportunity to recruit a new cohort of committee members with diverse and varied experiences in connection to the arts. And these are the people whom we are appointing today. We're also reappointing 2 active members currently serving. And I want to convey our deep appreciation to these individuals for stepping up to serve and for all the great community, civic, and artistic contributions that they all make in their everyday lives. I'm also proud that the committee recruitment was thoughtful and intentional about equity and community representation. And I want to appreciate my staff, Mona Schwartz, for keeping this value front and center. And I also want to thank the soon-to-be reappointed committee members, Laura Stribe and Michael Cummings, who have served on this committee and are willing to recommit to additional terms. We appreciate this so much. These responsibilities that the volunteers are charged with are very important, and they are here to assure that these investments are making the difference that they are intended to make and to reach the communities they are intended to reach and to ensure arts and culture are present and alive in our communities and schools. And while not everyone was able to be here today, we're so appreciative to have a number of these individuals who are here. So I'd like to welcome Laura Stribe, Chair of the Arts Education Access Fund Oversight Committee, to welcome the new members.
Good morning. I am Laura Stribe, the Arts Education Access Fund Chair and an arts educational professional. I'm an advocate for that in my professional and private life as well. Thank you for commissioners for having your continued support of the AEAF committee. Since I became chair of this committee in 2019, we've been busy standardizing our reporting calendar to streamline and be consistent in what is being asked for from the city revenue department, from RAC, and the 6 school districts that are getting AEF funded dollars. We also worked with RAC this last year on a new student designed logo that represents the Arts Education and Access Fund, and that is getting rolled out to all city, nonprofit, and school districts that receive AEF funding so that we can continue to make this top of mind for our citizens and our residents in Portland. We are very much looking forward to having this impressive new group of committee members to join us to ensure that the AEF tax dollars are being used on what the voters overwhelmingly approved in 2012. Thank you.
So, Laura, were you going to invite the appointees to introduce themselves?
If we have any appointees that are able to be on the committee, they can just unmute and state their names.
Hello, I'm James R. Dixon. I'm a Portland-based theater maker with a primary focus on Black and queer identities. I'm also a local arts administrator. Thanks for having me, Mayor and commissioners.
My name is Joaquin Lopez, and I'm so proud to serve on this committee. I'm serving also as creative laureate, and I'm a performing artist and writer and singer.
Hello, this is Carly Smith. I'm an arts worker and an arts organizer based here in Portland, Oregon, and I want to thank the committee and the commissioners and the mayor today for having us.
Hello, my name is Jessica Lagunas. I'm a visual artist and also the Arts and Culture Manager for Latino Network.
Hello, I'm Margot Norton. I am a TSCC commissioner, and I have been asked by the commission to fill the seat on the committee that is reserved for TSCC.
Hi, folks. My name is Jen Falco. I have an undergraduate degree in theater and an MBA. And so my hope here is to kind of span the arts focus and then also the financial side of this. I'm super excited to be here and super excited to be a part of this team.
That may be all of the, oh, I'm sorry, keep going.
Sorry, I'm Hannah Layson. I'm the head of youth and educator programs at the Portland Art Museum, and I am so grateful to be here and really excited to work on the committee. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else? Okay, I think that's everyone. So I will just turn it back over to the mayor and just again thank James, Joaquin, Carly, Jessica, Margot, Jen, Hannah, and Laura for joining us today and for your willingness to serve. So Mayor, back to you.
Thanks, Commissioner. I'll entertain a motion to accept the report.
So moved, Mayor.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Commissioner Hardesty moves acceptance of the report. Commissioner Rubio seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Keelan, please call the roll.
Maps.
I want to thank Laura and the committee members who could be with us today. I want to thank everyone for the work that you are about to do for Portland on behalf of the arts. I know this council wants to be a good partner to you, and we look forward to engaging in that work. And for these reasons and more, I vote aye.
Rubio.
I just again want to thank all of the individuals that are stepping up to serve. We're so appreciative that you took time out of your day to be here. That shows your commitment and your engagement gives this work credibility that we need for this to be effective. So thank you again, and we look forward to your report next time. I vote aye.
Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Rubio, for leading this important effort to further arts education in all of our districts in the city of Portland. I'm always excited to hear when you say the number 6 school districts and expand access to arts and culture for all Portlanders. I also want to thank Laura for giving more context and for all of you amazing people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 7 of you that were here today to take time out of your day to say hello and thank you in advance for your service. It's really a delight to meet all of you, and the city's Arts and Education and Access Fund is so important for our city. It's a great investment. Art saves lives. I'm ready to say aye.
Hardesty.
I want to thank Commissioner Rubio. What a stellar group of nominees you have placed in front of us today. I have to say, whenever I see Joaquin nowadays, I want a song. And so I feel like we missed out on that opportunity today, but maybe next time. I am very, very impressed with the stellar volunteers that you've been able to recruit. This is really hard work. This is work that feeds the spirit and the soul. And I am so grateful to each of you. I'm happy to say that I know about half of you, but the other half I can't wait to get to know. Thank you for your service for the city of Portland. We need you now more than ever as we recover arts, music, theater. That's what's going to help us regain our spirit and regain our soul. I'm happy to vote aye.
Wheeler.
I want to also express my thanks to Commissioner Rubio. First of all, this is a really great group of people. And I'm kind of jealous in a way. This looks like this is actually going to be fun. Your meetings are going to be fun and interesting, as well as providing a super important community service. And so I just want to say thanks. Appreciate it. I vote aye. The report is accepted. The appointments are approved. Thank you, everybody. With that, we'll move to the regular agenda. First item on the regular agenda, Keelan, is 786.
Authorize revenue bonds in amount not to exceed $47 million to finance transportation projects.
Speaking of fun, revenue bonds, one of my favorite subjects, but then again, I was a former state treasurer. The following ordinance authorizes the issuance of limited tax revenue bonds for various transportation projects of the Portland Bureau of Transportation. The issuance of these bonds will allow PBOT to leverage matching funds and complete ongoing projects in its capital improvement plan. The bonds will be repaid from the ongoing PBOT financial resources that exist. However, the bonds will be secured, as is often the case, by the city's general fund. City Debt Manager Matt Gurok and Jeremy Patton from PBOT are here to present the ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor.
I know. Before we hear the presentation, I know what I'm doing here. Before we hear what will undoubtedly be an incredible presentation, I'm going to hand things over to Commissioner Hardesty, who I know would like to provide some opening remarks. Commissioner Hardesty, it's great to see you.
Pleasure to see you also, Mayor. Thank you very much. I didn't want to rush you, but didn't want you to forget me either. I just wanted to add before we get into the presentation that this ordinance will authorize the $47 million in bonds that will fund really critical capital projects that are currently underway in East Portland, North Portland, Cully, and the Lentz neighborhood. Example projects include safety and sidewalk improvements along Outer Division, street improvements in Gateway, neighborhood connection projects in Jade Montevilla, safety and access to transit projects on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, among other projects. The debt will be repaid over 20 years by systems development charges and the planned gas tax increase from House Bill 2017. This bond issuance supports PBOT's decision to deliver near-term impactful projects in communities that have been neglected by past infrastructure investments. I am now happy to turn it over to Matt, and he can take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wheeler and Commissioner Hardesty for the introduction. For the record, I'm Matt Gurok, Debt Manager in the Office of Management and Finance. As stated in the opening remarks, this authorization will allow the city to issue up to $47 million of limited tax revenue bonds to finance various transportation infrastructure projects. The financed infrastructure projects were identified in the Bureau of Transportation's capital improvement plan prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, and this financing will allow the Bureau to complete projects as planned. As a reminder, limited tax revenue bonds are indebtedness secured by the city's legally available general funds. The city's debt policy allows for the issuance of limited tax revenue bonds that are paid from non-general fund financial resources of the city. These types of bonds are referred to as self-supporting limited tax revenue bonds. Issuing self-supporting general fund secured bonds allows bureaus to benefit from a lower interest rate relative to a borrowing secured solely by the actual repayment source. The proposed issuance will be considered self-supporting indebtedness under the city's debt policy, as it will be repaid by PBOT by a mix of future system development charges and state highway fund gas tax collections. However, the Bureau's general transportation revenues and reserve may be relied upon if there are shortfalls in the planned repayment sources. Prior to issuance, the Bureau will commit to prudently forecasting and budgeting for making debt service payments on these bonds, as well as the existing limited tax revenue bonds within its debt portfolio. Given the reduction in revenues due to COVID-19, the Bureau is also coordinating with debt management to implement planning standards around financial leverage of its funds in regards to future debt issuance. It should be noted that this authorizing ordinance is the first of two planned borrowings, with the subsequent $26 million borrowing to be separately authorized by Council in FY 23-24. Based on PBOT's revenue levels, both this borrowing and the future planned borrowing would fit within the planning standard. With Council's authorization, the Debt Management Division will execute the bond sale in January 2022 by a competitive sale. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, Jeremy Patton from PBOT is on the line as well.
Very good. Colleagues, any questions on this item? I'm not seeing any right off the bat. Keelan, do we have anybody signed up for public testimony?
No one signed up.
All right, very good. This is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Thank you. Next item, 787.
Authorize Bureau of Environmental Services to acquire certain temporary property rights necessary for construction of the Cedar Crossing Restoration Project number E07158 through exercise of the city's eminent domain authority.
Commissioner Mapps, good morning.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, colleagues, I'd like to pull this item back to my office. We have been able to reach an agreement with the property owner in this situation, so we do not need to bring this item before council.
All right, that's good news. Thank you for that, and congratulations without objection. 788, please.
Authorize competitive solicitation and contract with the lowest responsible bidder and provide payment for construction of the South Portland Burlingame Phase 2 Sewer Rehabilitation Project number E11080 for an estimated cost of $5 million.
Commissioner Mapps.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Colleagues, the item before us today is a $5 million sewage pipe replacement project in South Portland, brought to us by the Bureau of Environmental Services. As you know, Environmental Services manages the city's stormwater and sewer infrastructure, including 99 pump stations that rely upon about 2,500 miles of pipe to transport sewage to the Columbia Boulevard Water Treatment Plant. The ordinance before us today will allow the Bureau of Environmental Services to rehabilitate aging and severely deteriorating sanitary and combined sewer pipes in the South Portland and Burlingame areas. This project will improve reliability and reduce the risk of pipe breakages and sewer releases, which in turn will protect public health, people's property, and our environment. This $5 million project is scheduled to begin in July and will be completed within a year. Today, we have 3 staff members from Environmental Services here to tell us more about this project. I'm going to turn this presentation over to that team, which includes Joe Dvorak, engineering design manager, Daniel Boatman, who's a project manager, and Aram Abrams, the community outreach manager on this project. Joe, Daniel, Aaron, welcome, and please tell us more.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, Mayor and members of council. For the record, I'm Joe Dvorak with the Bureau of Environmental Services. This project is one of many in our large-scale sewer rehabilitation program, and we are happy to present it to you today. I will now turn it over to Daniel, who's prepared a short presentation for you, and I'm available for questions at the end. Thanks, Daniel.
All right, Daniel, I think we can't hear you. Up. I think we still might be having some audio issues.
Daniel, we can see the presentation, but we cannot hear you. Can you do something differently, or can somebody else take up the presentation?
Now we lost.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
All right.
Loud and clear. No presentation though, but we got.
Yeah. I'll go back to sharing my screen. I had to exit that just to be able to find the controls to edit the device that it's using for my audio. The fun of
All right. You're good now.
meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about the delay. Okay. Well, thank you for your time this morning. Everyone can see the presentation now?
Yes.
Okay. Before moving on. So this project, as Commissioner Mapps noted, this project will
increase system capacity and reliability and protect public health, property, reduce the risk of sewage release and sewer backups. This project has approximately 6,800 feet of pipe ranging in diameter from 6-inch to 30-inch. The average age of these sewers that are being rehabilitated is 100 years old, which is right up at the end of a service life for these type of pipes. And so it's long overdue. We have approximately 1,000 feet of sanitary services that will reconstruct or rehabilitate while we're doing the mainline repairs. And we have approximately 370 feet of sanitary sewer extensions to address non-conforming sewers within the project area. The work will be done with a variety of construction methods, including open trench excavation and trenchless options. I'll turn it over to Aaron Abrams for the public outreach.
Hello, everyone. We've done extensive public outreach in this community. This is part of our large-scale sewer rehab program, and we've been working throughout Southwest on a number of projects in this area. We've sent out a significant number of flyers, email updates, social media. We've done multiple public presentations. We will have some extended work hours and night work, and we have gotten noise variances for those from the noise office.
And that included that 30 days of outreach and whatnot. So thank you, Aaron. And that picture there is Joe Tersey. And so for this project, Joe has been our lead, and we're also utilizing public information's outreach consultants that are assisting Joe in outreach for this project. The engineer's estimate, as Commissioner Mapps noted, is $5 million. We have a high confidence level on that. We are hoping to advertise by February and begin construction around July or August, depending on the timing of things. And then our construction duration, we're anticipating a year-long construction. And then these pictures here, John Landing is we're not working right next to the water tower, but it's in the general area, and it's kind of an iconic representation of the area that we're working. And then that photo on the right was one that I took just one of the areas that we're working. I thought it was a beautiful photo, so I thought I'd put it in the slideshow just to show, the beauty of the areas that we do work in. Any questions?
Sure. Commissioner Ryan has a question.
Yeah, I have one because if anyone's tuning in, I'm sure some of them will just want me to ask this question. It's a wonderful, big investment for infrastructure. And when you say things like 100 years old, that allows us to tune in and listen a little harder that it's necessary. If we don't make investments like this, what's the risk factor? Like, what will happen if we don't do this investment?
Joe, do you want to take this one? I can take a stab at it, but you may have a more official response.
Yeah, great question, Commissioner. Basically, old infrastructure like that, if we don't rehabilitate or replace, will eventually collapse, and that can result in sinkholes and cavities in the street, impacting traffic and safety. And then from environmental services perspective, when pipes collapse, sewage can't get through, it'll back up into neighboring homes, businesses, as well as on the street. So both environmental, transportation, and safety impacts.
I really appreciate that. I think because this dialogue about infrastructure is in the public domain, both nationally and locally, it's important that we just dumb it down for people like me and others that might be tuning in so that we can really lean in on why these investments are really important. Our city is not young anymore, and so we're really continuing to make these type of investments. But I just appreciate you taking a little bit more time to explain that. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. And do we have any public testimony on this item, Keelan?
No one signed up.
Did you say one or no one?
Oh, I'm sorry. No one signed up.
No one signed up. All right, very good. So this is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Thank you. Next item, 789, and I just want to remind people I may not be able to stay for the entirety of the item, but I will stay here as long as I can. Item 789, please.
Add accessibility of candidate debates and forums code and amend open and accountable elections program code to make the program fairer, simpler, easier to navigate, and better optimized to achieve program goals.
Great. And just as a reminder, this is a first reading, so we will not be voting on this anyway today. We'll take it up next week for the vote. Commissioner Rubio.
Thank you, Mayor. And before we begin the presentation, I want to announce that I have used the Open and Accountable Elections program in the past. And although I'm not currently running for re-election right now, out of an abundance of caution, I'm disclosing this. This is a potential conflict of interest. So today you have before you a package of amendments to the Open and Accountable Elections program and a change to the city elections law to improve accessibility. Open and Accountable Elections was implemented for the first time for the 2020 election cycle. The Open and Accountable Elections Commission is required to assess the program's performance and recommend how to adjust the program's numbers and rules to keep it up to date with a constantly changing campaign finance landscape. The Commission did that and published their findings in a report that can be found on the program's website at portland.gov/open-elections. In addition, because it was the program's first cycle, the program worked with a user experience researcher to do a 360-degree analysis of what went well and where there's room for improvement. All types of users participated, from participating candidates, non-participating candidates, campaign staff, treasurers, and different types of campaign donors. One piece of feedback was nearly universal. The program needs to be simplified to make it easier for everyone to understand and use, and to make it more inclusive. Most of the amendments before you do that. These are one-time program changes after the first election cycle. Other amendments are about keeping the program aligned with the constantly changing campaign finance climate. When we had filed these amendments earlier this fall, we learned that recent case law from the Oregon Government Ethics Commission complicated whether voting on these updates creates a conflict of interest. So we pulled the item from the agenda and worked with the city attorney's office to get clarity on this. A cautious analysis was done to identify which changes in the ordinance might be interpreted as a conflict of interest. As a result of that analysis, those items were changed to delegations to the Open and Accountable Elections Commission instead. This way, the program can be updated regularly, as programs like this must, in order to continue to be successful, do, without asking the city council to regularly vote on things that pose a conflict of interest when either 2 or 3 of us are in an election cycle. One item cannot be delegated nor changed from being a conflict of interest for those running for office right now, which was a change to the program's funding formula for the city's annual budget. That item will be brought before you separately in the near future. In addition to the OAE amendments, we are also considering today a change to the city's election law to clarify in code that candidate and debates and forums should be accessible and inclusive. So I will now turn it over to Director Susan Motet to discuss this further and answer your questions.
Thank you. I'll just do a few elaborations on what Commissioner Rubio's remarks. One is that when the law was passed in 2016, it was written with educated guesses based on data from other jurisdictions and applied to Portland's campaign finance data to guess how it would change the campaign finance climate, but no one knew for sure until, of course, we could implement it for at least one cycle and then have data based on that. So now that we have that actual data from implementation, we can move beyond those educated guesses and get the program just right. And we did use a very comprehensive user experience research project to gather a lot of qualitative data. We looked at a lot of campaign finance data from 2016 and 2020 to do a very qualitative analysis. And as it mentioned, we published both the user experience report and the commission report online. For those of you who don't plan to read it, It basically says that the first election cycle was a success. The program navigated many challenging situations well and met many goals, but there were definitely lots of areas for improvement. And the package of amendments before you is with the goal of improving those areas. And the program is very happy to solicit all the critical feedback as well as the feedback about things that were good and we shouldn't change, and throw all that feedback up on our website and be very transparent, because we're very committed to making every improvement that the program needs so that it can be functioning optimally. And that's important for public financing of elections programs, because they only work and meet goals when they are basically performing very well. They're very well tailored to the existing election campaign finance climate and the needs of campaigns, because they're only as successful as they have a high participation rate. And there are many programs. There are 32 similar programs across the country. About half of them have not been updated over time and have fallen into disuse. So we're trying to avoid the same fate for Portland's program. So the Open and Accountable Elections Commission, they looked at the qualitative and quantitative data, made a series of recommendations, and they worked not just with the users that were providing the feedback, but with stakeholders, and engaged many stakeholders very deeply for the more substantive changes in the process of figuring out what specifically to recommend as a whole commission to the city council. And then, as Commissioner Rubio mentioned, we had a little hiccup with a recent change in conflict of interest case law, took the pieces of the recommended changes that have a financial impact on campaigns, turned them into delegations to the commission, so that hopefully in the future, the case law or even the statute will change so that city councils can, freely update public financing of elections programs on their own. But until we're at a place where the city council can regularly update the program, especially those numbers that by definition have a financial impact on campaigns, we do need a body to be able to make sure the program numbers stay up to date and are optimized toward meet the program meeting its goals successfully. The other change is it creates a new piece of code about keeping public candidate debates and candidate forums accessible and inclusive. And there's also a delegation in the Open and Accountable Elections Code to permit the Open and Accountable Elections Commission to allow up to $10,000 to be spent to defray the cost of interpreters and translators at candidate debates and forums. And this came from a request from the late Commissioner Fish, who had asked the program back in 2018 to help move the city of Portland toward the goal of making sure that candidates and residents of Portland who want to be engaged in our democracy don't have obstacles as it relates to the accessibility of candidate debates and forums. Anyway, I'm here if anyone has any questions about the changes before you.
Colleagues, any questions at this juncture? Commissioner Hardesty.
Thank you. For the sake of full disclosure, I have filed to participate in a public financing mechanism at the city of Portland for my reelection campaign. And I am not sure today whether I feel comfortable voting on anything having to do with that. So I do have some questions today, but haven't decided whether or not, even with legal counsel recommendations, it's appropriate for me to vote. But today my questions were, the original proposal that came forward had some financial mechanisms in place. Are we delegating the financial responsibility to the commission versus the city council?
The one piece that was removed entirely was that currently the code has a funding cap, how much money the program can get, 0.02% of the general fund. The Open and Accountable Elections Commission had recommended to replace that with a funding formula because the city voters had passed honest elections contribution limits for candidates not participating in the program. The courts had stalled those. in the middle of the last election cycle, the court said that those can be enforced. Having contribution limits outside of the program and then, newly would drive a lot more candidates into the program and increase the cost. We estimate by about 50%. So then that funding cap would actually result in the program becoming continually insolvent cycle after cycle. That's why they recommended the funding formula. However, we wanted to make sure that the actual ripened conflicts of interest were removed from this. So we removed that piece entirely. That will only be able to be voted on separately by those, who feel comfortable, who are not running for re-election this year, likely. And so we plan to bring that before you again for a vote that not all of you can easily participate in.
Thank you. That I think is really helpful. So what we're asking to do here is just to ensure that people with different abilities will be able to fully participate in the public finance election system. Is that an accurate assessment of what we're being asked to do today?
That's one thing. There are a number of changes recommended to the program that don't have a fiscal impact on any campaigns and therefore aren't caught up with the conflict of interest law. So it's all of those little changes that simplify the program and make it easier to use and understand. But with all of the items that create a fiscal impact on campaigns, this would also delegate those decisions to the Open and Accountable Elections Commission. So those are the three things it does. It improves accessibility, it simplifies the program, and then it delegates the items that the city council can't vote on very comfortably.
So let me just say that I'm uncomfortable with delegating my fiscal oversight to a committee that will then come back with a recommendation that we will then have to vote on. I think we have more conversations that we need to have, maybe about timing when we bring these kind of changes to the council. I do think we need a broader conversation, and I'm uncomfortable getting into the nitty gritty, knowing that I am currently a candidate using that system. So this is not a comfortable conversation to be having right now, but I do understand the sense of urgency for some of the changes that you're recommending.
The fiscal budgetary, the city budget part has been removed entirely, not delegated.
Yes. Yeah, I understand that. I do understand that, but I also understand that we're also giving more authority to the commission to make decisions that may or may not be appropriate for a commission to make. So that's where my caution lies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Hello, Susan. It's good to see you, and thank you for your service. And I really appreciate what you said, that when you do something bold and innovative, which I should have started off by saying something really important. I want to second and say ditto to what Commissioner Rubio said earlier and what Commissioner Hardesty said. I don't have an attorney that wrote anything up for me, but I do want to say that I am somebody that ran with the inaugural Open and Accountable system, and I am running for re-election under the same program. So then I go forward with some caution, and I too will take some more advisement about whether I'll vote next week. However, I still have a question, and I am a city council member, and I would love to ask it. So here it goes. I was really flattering you for all the right reasons. I like that you said that basically when you do something bold and innovative, you have educated guesses. You have to go on some hunches. You have to get out there and do it. And we're a city that needs to do more of that, quite frankly. And then as a city in good government, we have to be transparent to then make adjustments as we get feedback and we learn. And so I really appreciated the 360 process. And so my question to you, because it is about open and accountability, is you mentioned a list of stakeholders that you met with. And I think it'd be good for us to see who in fact you talked to. So I know our office would love to see the list of those who were consulted with in terms of being stakeholders. I think that would be open and accountable and fair. So,
yes.
Is
happy
that
to
clear?
send that along. I'm happy
all right,
to send
sounds good. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Susan. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Commissioner Hardesty, you had your hand
Thank
up.
you, Mayor. Yes, actually, I just thought of one other question. I mean, the biggest unanswered questions about open and accountable elections is where it should be housed. And we're in a position now with a transition in the auditor's office that I hope as a city, we are thinking thoughtfully about the Charter Commission and whether or not we should be putting that question in front of the Charter Commission. I still believe the logical place for open and accountable elections is the auditor's office. It makes the most sense, even though I'm aware that an auditor in the future may elect to use the open and accountable system. Has the commission had any conversations about that and using this opportunity with the Charter Review Commission to actually solidify where the home should be of the open and accountable elections process?
Yes, the Open and Accountable Elections Code tasked the Open and Accountable Elections Commission with making a recommendation for a long-term home for the program. And after careful consideration, recommended that the city consider a charter amendment to create an independent Portland Elections Commission to house the program so that it is independent of all of the electeds that could run under it. Also, one of the items in user feedback we experienced that was also nearly universal was that it would be nice if the contribution limits and disclosure enforcement was carried out by the same office as runs open and accountable elections. And the commission has recommended those changes to the Charter Review Commission, and we've had conversations with them, and so they're currently considering it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Is there anybody signed up for public testimony on this item?
No one signed up, Mayor.
Very good. Colleagues, then, without further ado, this is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance, and it moves to second reading. And colleagues, at this time, I'll turn the gavel over to the Council President. Commissioner Ryan, thanks for stepping in.
You're welcome. Keelan, go ahead and read 790.
Authorize new construction financing for an affordable housing project to be developed by an Innovative Housing Incorporated affiliate not to exceed $20,544,000.
Okay, that's actually the Housing Bureau, that's me. So colleagues, I'm excited to share an update from Portland Housing Bureau with all of you today. I want to begin by thanking Bureau staff as well as our partners at the Joint Office of Homeless Services for their hard work and leadership on the Anna Man, which is the 9th new project funded by the voter-approved Portland Housing Bond and weaves Portland Housing Bureau's capital funds with much needed funding for our supported services from the county to provide housing for our most vulnerable residents. This unique project will acquire and renovate an existing historic building and develop it by adding 2 newly constructed buildings to create new affordable multifamily rental housing in an amenity-rich, high-opportunity Laurelhurst neighborhood. The Anna Man project will help actualize critical housing needs just 3 miles east of downtown. It will also be close to public transportation, a large array of retail services, multiple parks, and within walking distance of some of the city's public schools. 128 affordable units will be developed in this project. These new units will contribute to the 1,490 permanently affordable homes funded through Portland Housing Bond, which are already open or in development. The Anna Man will ensure the Housing Bureau exceeds the goals originally promised to the voters who approved the city's first affordable housing bond. This project is one of the many steps we are taking in the city to increase affordable housing stock in Portland, and especially in amenity-rich neighborhoods where there's access to transit, green spaces, schools, and economic opportunities. It comes as a result of tremendous collaboration among our partners, including the Joint Office, the Oregon Housing and Community Services, KeyBank, Freddie Mac, and Innovative Housing, Inc. We especially want to thank the development team of Innovative Housing, Inc. for their valued partnership in our efforts to house our vulnerable neighbors with dignity and stability, and for bringing forward this project during these uncertain times. I also want to thank the Housing Bureau for their tireless efforts to bring this project to fruition. It's my pleasure now to pass it on to Director Callahan, who is joined by Innovative Housing, Inc.'s Executive Director, Sarah Stevenson, and will share a brief presentation and answer questions on the Hannah Man. Director Callahan, please take it away.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Shannon Callahan of the Portland Housing Bureau. Keelan, would you mind putting up the PowerPoint presentation so we can show some images of the lovely Anna Man? So as the Commissioner noted, we are here to ask for your approval for funding for the Anna Man project. Next slide, please. The Anna Man is not where that little red circle is, but it's actually number 5 on the Portland on the map in front of you. As the Commissioner noted, it is in a high opportunity neighborhood, which is the Laurelhurst neighborhood. And it is our 11th project to either open or begin construction. Our final project, bond project, will come to you actually later this month at the Joyce Hotel. Next slide, please. This slide here is a visual rendering of both the existing historic landmark that will be retained on the 3-acre Anna Man campus, as well as 2 additional new buildings. The Anna Man is really a project that Portlanders should be proud of. It will bring and preserve an old historic asset, bring new buildings, as I said, in the Laurelhurst neighborhood to serve over 315 Portlanders with safe, affordable housing and a place to call home. Next slide, please. Specifically, you can see here the historic building, which will be repurposed. As the Commissioner noted, this is within walking distance of parks, schools, retail, and excellent transportation access. Innovative Housing has done a tremendous job to work with their contractors and subs. They are on track to exceed the Portland Housing Bureau's equity and contracting standards that we set at 30% of DMW ESB. They're also seeking Earth Advantage Gold, and most excitingly, they are slated to start construction next month. So this project will welcome families home in the summer of 2023. Next slide, please. As we've mentioned, the property is a historic building, and we will be adding, or IHI will be adding, 2 new buildings on a 3-acre site. IHI has been extremely careful to both preserve the historic nature of the building, but to create a new space for families to call home, as well as being very careful to preserve green space elements on the property and what is a wonderful tree canopy and landscaped community. The property will serve families and very low income households and include a significant number of 2, 3, and even a 4-bedroom apartment. Next slide, please. Specifically, you can see here renderings of one of the new buildings and the tuck under parking. As I said, there's 128 affordable units planned at the Anna Man. 48 of those are 2 bedrooms, 13 are 3, and there's even a 4-bedroom for families that may require that large of a unit. Rent support is paired with a large number of the units on this property, so rents will be available for families with little to no income. And the lowest rent that families would pay for a 1-bedroom would be about $476 a month. IHI is also partnering with ERCO and New Narrative to provide 12 units of permanent supportive housing. All told, 42 units at the Anna Man will serve very low income families with incomes below 30% AMI or below. Next slide, please. As Commissioner Ryan noted, the Joint Office of Homeless Services will be providing operational support. That operational support is being funded in part by the city's contribution to the permanent supportive housing commitments they have made. And as well, IHI will bring service partners, as I just mentioned, to provide comprehensive wraparound services to the families. Next slide, please. And although the city's contribution to this project is significant, we will be contributing over $12.5 million in bond funds, $8 million in our federal community development block grant. Projects like this don't happen without private and public leverage. What our investment is leveraging is 2.8 times of resources, including low-income housing tax credits and historic tax credits from Key Bank, as well as important contributions from our infrastructure bureaus by way of SDC exemptions. And finally, before I turn it over to Sarah Stevenson, the Executive Director of Innovative Housing, Inc., I'd just like to thank and acknowledge the entire Portland Housing Bureau team who worked alongside IHI to make this project a reality. It literally takes a village, or in this case, about half a bureau, to work alongside the team to make sure that this project meets all of the requirements that we committed to with voters, but goes beyond that and really creates a sense of place, a sense of permanency, and a sense of home for 315 Portlanders. So with that, I'd like to turn it over and thank Sarah Stevenson for her and her team's partnership. Sarah?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Sarah Stevenson with Innovative Housing. I'm very grateful to be here and for the opportunity to talk to you about this critical funding step for the Anaman project. This development, as Commissioner Ryan said, both preserves a valuable piece of Portland history and also creates a new place for families to grow and thrive here. And IHI is really pleased to be part of the team that will redevelop it into 128 new affordable homes. As you've heard, 61 of the apartments will be family-sized 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms. All the units will have air conditioning. We're designing a natural playground that will utilize materials from the site, including one of the very few mature trees that we have to remove to make way for the new buildings. For the most part, we're working hard to retain those trees and the green canopy that will provide natural cooling to the site. Paired with the great lawn that you saw in that rendering, which is one of the historic elements we are retaining, our housing here will be surrounded by green space. We'll also be surrounded by friendly neighbors. We're very grateful for the support of both the Kearns and the Laurelhurst neighborhood associations. We look forward to working with both of them to welcome our new residents to this community. As Shannon mentioned, in addition to acting as the developer, IHI staff will provide wraparound support services to all of Anaman's new residents, as well as comprehensive housing stability services to the individuals and families in our 12 permanent supportive housing units. We will team up with New Narratives to offer behavioral health and addiction services, and we are partnering with the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization to both refer residents and also to provide culturally specific services so that all of our new residents have the support they need to succeed here. This property has long been used as a retreat and a sanctuary in the city. We look forward to repurposing it into affordable homes and extending the privilege of that safety and that sanctuary to individuals and families who are struggling to make ends meet. Thank you. We appreciate the city's partnership in this work.
And Commissioner Ryan, that concludes our formal presentation on this matter, and we would request council support to fund the Anaman.
Thank you so much, Director Callahan, and thank you, Sarah Stevenson. It was great to have you here with us. Keelan, is there any public testimony on this item?
No one signed up.
Okay, colleagues, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Commissioner Ryan, if
Yes.
I may.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Commissioner Ryan, Director Callahan, and Sarah Stevenson for your presentation. Let me just say that I think this is the second time that Innovative Partners have been in front of us in the last year. And each time I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude for the thoughtfulness, the approach that you take, the real intentionality, both about the space and creating a beautiful space for new tenants that will be moving in. I just can't applaud this project enough. I know what it takes as a board member of Human Solutions for a nonprofit to put toothpaste and glue and to bring these projects to the finish line. And I just want to thank all the parties that were involved. These are the kind of projects that I'm proud of. It's rare that we have an entire building that will serve the most vulnerable people in our community. And I have no questions. I'm just, thank you, thank you, thank you. Great project. Happy to support it. And I believe this is an emergency ordinance, so I suspect we will be voting on it later.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any other colleagues have any questions or comments to make before we do the vote? All right, seeing none. Since this is an emergency ordinance, if there is no more deliberation on the item, I would ask if there's a second or if there's a motion to approve this ordinance.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardesty. Is there a second?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to interrupt, Commissioner Ryan. We actually don't need a motion. We can just go ahead and call the vote.
Oh, when it's an emergency item, you don't need a motion.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. You know, this council president gets to learn something every time I get the gavel handed to me. So it's great. All right. With that, then if there's no further discussion, Keelan, can you please call the roll?
Of course. Thank you. Matt.
I just want to thank Commissioner Ryan for bringing this project forward. It really is a model for the city. And I also want to congratulate the Housing Bureau and IHI for the innovative and thoughtful work they are doing here. It really is an example that I hope that we can replicate throughout the city. And for these reasons and more, I vote aye.
Rubio.
I want to thank Commissioner Ryan and the Portland Housing Bureau and Innovative Housing and all the external partners that have been dedicated to this project for some time now. This is a very exciting project and a beautiful project, and I'm thrilled to be voting on this today. I also just want to mention, I love the wraparound community supports and partnerships with providers and neighbors, and I love the green space that is prioritized for these families and individuals because they deserve to have that. So congratulations again on moving forward today, and I'm proud to vote aye.
Ryan?
Yes, thank you. Oh, it's okay. So thank you, Director Callahan. And Sarah, it was really wonderful to have you here, Sarah Stevenson. And like my colleagues said before me, the partnerships were really deep and vast. I'm especially happy to see that ERCO's involved. And I also like that you mentioned the outreach and the engagement that you did with both the Kearns and the Laurelhurst neighborhood associations. It's really important that neighbors are always welcomed into the community. And anyway, this is such a thoughtful, feel-good project for all the right reasons. I'm delighted to vote aye.
Hardesty.
I already said the loving things I wanted to say earlier, and I just want to highlight my appreciation for exceeding our goals around contracting. Any opportunity we get to make those jobs available for minority and women-owned firms is a good day. I vote aye.
Okay, the ordinance is accepted. This item concludes the morning session of the Portland City Council today. We will be back for a really robust afternoon session. Bring your snacks. That begins at 2 p.m. We are now adjourned.